Hello, you're watching TVP World News. I'm Jonasz Lewiński. Foreign Affairs ministers have met in Luxembourg to discuss Russia's continued invasion of Ukraine, which was further intensified by the deadly attack on Sumy over the weekend. European leaders lambasted the assault, with the EU's top diplomat calling for more action to support the war-torn Ukraine. Our EU correspondent Angela Skujins has the latest from Brussels.
Poland's Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski said he is appalled by the weekend Russian attack on the northeastern Ukrainian city of Sumy, which has left at least 31 people killed and a range of those being children. Now, the comments were made before a Foreign Affairs Council meeting in Luxembourg, where those 27 representatives from those EU countries have gathered to discuss the latest developments in Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Let's take a listen to what Poland's top diplomat had to say.
I just want to say how appalled I am by the latest spate of Russian attacks on Ukraine. Ukraine unconditionally agreed to a ceasefire over a month ago. The heinous attacks on Kryvyi Rih and on Sumy is Russia's mocking answer. I hope that President Trump, the US administration, see that the leader of Russia is mocking their goodwill, and I hope the right decisions are taken.
Now, Sikorski there is referencing the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's remarks from Sunday, in which he invited US President Donald Trump to witness the devastation that Russia is bringing Ukraine, despite these two countries being engaged in a one-month ceasefire. This was echoed by the EU top diplomat Kaja Kallas, who said that despite both of these parties coming to the table for these negotiations, only Kyiv was holding up its end of the bargain. However, she said it was not totally doom and gloom, as 2/3 of her Kaja Kallas initiative, which is finding 2 billion rounds of high-caliber ammunition to support Ukraine on the front lines, has been achieved. However, she said that European allies need to up the ante and to continue putting pressure on Russia so that it would stop its invasion of Ukraine. Angela Skujins from the Belgian capital for TVP World.
At the European Council meeting in Luxembourg, EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy Kaja Kallas addressed the deadly Russian attack on the city of Sumy and the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. She urged the international community to apply maximum pressure on Russia to end the war. Here's what Kaja Kallas had to say.
Of course, every member state is giving what they can give, but I think the message is very clear. We need to do more so that Ukraine can defend itself and the civilians don't have to die. Of course, we're going to discuss, but right now I think we have to put the pressure, the maximum pressure on Russia to really end this war, because it takes two to want peace. It only takes one to want war, and we see that Russia really wants war. And all those who want the killing to stop should put the maximum pressure on Russia. Thank you.
The first ever high-level political dialogue between the European Union and Palestine is taking place on the sidelines of the EU foreign ministers' meeting in Luxembourg. The talks, featuring key figures such as Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski and Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammad Mustafa, are focused on the ongoing conflict in Gaza and the prospects for a two-state solution between Israel and Palestine.
Led by EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, the talks are centered on the situation in Gaza and the West Bank, as well as the broader Israeli-Palestinian relations. The meeting also addresses EU-Palestine bilateral relations, including the proposed reforms by the Palestinian Authority and potential EU support for these initiatives. This is the first political-level meeting of its kind between the two sides. A press conference summarizing the discussions is scheduled for 5 p.m. GMT, and we will bring you more updates as the story develops.
In a recent interview with CBS News, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky extended an invitation to US President Donald Trump to visit Ukraine, saying he would welcome him with pleasure. Zelensky emphasized the importance of witnessing the devastation of the war firsthand before making any crucial decisions about Ukraine's future.
We want you to come and I think to come and to see. You think you understand what's going on here. Okay, we respect your position. You understand. But please, before any kind of decisions, any kind of formats of negotiations, come to see people, civilians, warriors, hospitals, churches, children, destroyed or dead. Come, look, and then let's move with a plan how to finish the war. You will understand with whom you have a deal. You will understand what Putin did, and we will not prepare anything. It will not be theater with preparing actors in the streets and etc. We don't do this. We don't need it. You can go exactly where you want in any city which has been under attacks. What I said to them, just to come and to understand.
At least 34 people were killed in a Russian missile strike on the Ukrainian city of Sumy on Sunday. 2 ballistic missiles hit the heart of the city as crowds gathered for Palm Sunday celebrations. Another 117 people were injured, including 15 children.
At least 34 people have been killed and 117 injured in a Russian missile attack on the Ukrainian city of Sumy. Sumy in the northern part of Ukraine was targeted by 2 Russian ballistic missiles. President Zelensky condemned the atrocity, saying only scoundrels act like this, taking the lives of ordinary people. Now, it's important to note this attack came only 2 days after Steve Witkoff, the US envoy for the Middle East, who's been leading negotiations with Russia, met Vladimir Putin in Moscow. And President Zelensky has reiterated his message to Washington that more pressure needs to be applied on Russia in light of attacks like this, which are repeatedly striking Ukrainian cities and killing Ukrainian civilians. With Zelensky saying, without pressure on the aggressor, peace is impossible. Talks have never stopped ballistic missiles and aerial bombs. It's Oz Kataji reporting from Kyiv for TVP World.
Speaking to reporters aboard the Air Force One later that same day, US President Donald Trump called the Russian strike on the city of Sumy, I quote, a mistake. When asked to clarify whether he believed the attack was unintentional, Trump repeated that it was a mistake without stating who had briefed him on the incident.
I think it was terrible, and I was told they made a mistake, but I think it's a horrible thing. I think the whole war is a horrible thing. I think the war is, for that war to have started, is an abuse of power. This country would have never allowed that war to have started if I were president.
You were told they made a mistake. Do you mean it was unintentional?
They made a mistake. I believe it was. Look, you're going to ask them. This is Biden's war. This is not my war.
In Ukraine's southeastern Zaporizhia region, a Russian drone attack ignited a fire at a petrol station, but the flames were quickly extinguished with no injuries reported, according to regional governor Ivan Fedorov. The attack comes despite a ceasefire agreement reached in March, in which both Russia and Ukraine agreed to refrain from targeting each other's energy infrastructure. However, both sides have since accused the other of violating these agreements.
Meanwhile, late on April 13th, a Russian drone strike on Odessa injured at least 5 people and started fires that damaged civilian infrastructure, including a major roadway, a car repair shop and several vehicles. A nearby medical facility also sustained significant damage, though no patients were wounded. This attack comes amid ongoing US efforts to mediate a ceasefire, as Moscow continues its assault despite previous agreements. Just a day earlier, on Palm Sunday, a Russian ballistic missile attack on Sumy killed 34 and injured 117, including 2 children.
New footage from surveillance cameras on the Polish-Belarusian border shows a group of migrants attempting to launch an attack on Polish border guards. Now, what's even more alarming, among them was a uniformed member of Belarusian forces directly participating in the assault.
In the early hours of Sunday, Jacek Dobrzyński, the spokesperson for the Polish Ministry of Internal Affairs and Administration, published the following clip from the Polish-Belarusian border.
The border near Mielnik, several dozen people are trying to overcome the security measures in an attempt to illegally enter Poland. Among the aggressors, the camera captures a uniformed Belarusian officer who also attacks our officers with stones.
This group was very aggressive. Lately, we've been noticing that, unfortunately, every attempt to cross our border illegally ends in aggression. During this incident, stones and tree branches were thrown at Polish officers, and our service vehicle was damaged.
But this time, it wasn't only asylum seekers at the border.
The clip posted by Jacek Dobrzyński, in which a group of aggressors, together with a Belarusian officer, are attempting to break into Poland, should open the eyes of all those who trivialize this threat and baselessly attack the defenders of Polish borders.
We are talking about hybrid warfare led by Belarusian services supported by Russia against Poland and other Eastern NATO flank countries. And we are talking about instrumentalization of migration.
The Podlaskie unit of the Border Guard has recorded more than 3,000 attempts of illegal crossings from Belarus to Poland since the start of 2025.
Polish border guards managed to lower the successfully attempts of illegally crossing our border by 98%, which is a significant success.
Since August 2021, Poland has responded to the rising number of attempted illegal border crossings from Belarus by constructing a 186-kilometer fence equipped with an electronic surveillance system, significantly reducing illegal crossings.
We're mobilizing Europe to treat this border as a shared responsibility. This is one of the largest operations in Polish history after 1989.
The European Commission allocated 52 million euros to Warsaw in December 2024 to tighten border protection against hybrid threats from Belarus and Russia.
It's a constant effort of Polish border guard and Polish army who are stopping these attempts.
Reporting for TVP World, I'm Aisha Baja.
Hungary's main opposition party TISA rallied thousands in Budapest on Sunday. Protesters gathered to voice their opposition to Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government. Now, while TISA avoided directly mentioning the newly introduced law banning LGBTQ+ marches, many demonstrators turned up specifically to oppose the legislation. The controversial law also includes provisions allowing the government to use facial recognition technology to identify participants in what it calls illegal marches. Critics say it's a direct attack against basic civil liberties. Ahead of the rally, TISA sent out a questionnaire to Hungarians on several political issues, including the country's membership in the European Union and NATO. Observers say the move echoes the Orban government's tactic of using referendums to justify controversial policies.
The TISA party will bring home the EU funds that have been blocked due to government corruption. By doing so, we will create the basis for the economic and social recovery of society. Unlocking the EU funds alone could boost the economy by at least 1%, which would yield an additional $2.2 billion to the Hungarian budget.
Speaking to TVP World, former Polish ambassador Bogdan Guralczyk stated that Hungary's main opposition leader Peter Magyar would shift the country towards Brussels and away from Russian influence.
Definitely, Peter Magyar will not cooperate with Russia. He went to Ukraine. He was even in Bucha, the place of the massacre, which Viktor Orban will never come to his mind to go there.
And that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and please stay with us here on TVP World.